face is red, that's because I've just spent the last 15 minutes looking at atheist memes online. Here's a little bit of context for you. My brother and I were doing a Catholic meme review, and as soon as we finished recording it, he was like, hey, maybe we've been going a little too much in the anti-Catholic, we want to have other content. I'm like, fair enough. So he's like, we should probably also do an an atheist meme review. So I went to my trusted source, which is Pinterest.com, because I am in fact a woman of a certain age, and I typed in atheist memes, and by golly, Miss Molly, we have some fun ones today. Oh, geez. It's a mixed bag. On one hand, it's terrible. On the other hand, they're really kind of funny. Funny in, the bad way. But I'm amped. I'm ready to go. We have 11 atheist memes. The dankest memes you've ever darn seen. We have 11 atheist memes, and I've seen them. He has not. We're going to go through them. We're going to show them to you as well. What do they have to say? Our fedora-wearing friends. All right, you ready?
I'm ready. Welcome to Atheist Meme Review. We just did the Catholic Meme Review. There was some common ground there. We're Protestants. We have common ground with Catholics on something. From her reaction, I'm concerned. The last one was kind of funny, kind of fun. I'm concerned. Let's see how it goes.
Here you are, starting off with a nice softball.
Okay, this is kind of fun. Show the picture of the Quran, the proof that Allah exists. The Holy Bible, the proof that God exists. Spider-Man, Beginnings, the proof that Spider-Man exists. You have thoughts?
Go ahead.
I mean, the obvious matter here is, gosh, where to approach it?
I know, right?
Okay, the first proof that God exists is that we exist. Like, just fundamentally. Like, okay, let me. I was going to say you could talk to, like, the notion of an author, but I'm going to talk to the notion of author real quick. Like, the Spider-Man book, proof that Spider-Man exists. No, Spider-Man is a fictional character, but there was an author who wrote that book. And it's like, oh, the authors who wrote the human book. I mean, the Bible were just human men. It's like, yeah, how about the author of the universe? Right? The universe is the book that proves that God exists. The Bible is him revealing himself to man.
I was going to say, there's not a dorky way to not say that, or there is not a not dorky way to say that, but yes, you are entirely correct. Obviously, there is a difference between a book about Spider-Man and a book about God, because the book about God explains what is already there. Spider-Man is made up, but this is an explanation. And granted, to be clear, what I just said doesn't necessarily prove the validity of Christianity. An atheist can and would say that, oh, okay, you saw what was there and made up an explanation for it. That's a lot better than just making something up entirely. It's not a fair comparison. What we're going to see for every single one of these is atheists think they're so smart. And sometimes there are points that have some legitimacy. Most of the time, not so much.
And I'm even saying, I will go directly in the Bible for a little bit. Like, the Bible proves that God exists. There is proof that God exists in the Bible. If you want to talk about proof of prophecy, like, one specific prophecy I love to bring up is that Jesus Christ was prophesied to die in Psalms, that they've pierced my hands and my feet. And that is a specific, there is no type of execution that does that except for crucifixion. That's an incredibly specific thing. At the time that it is written, crucifixion didn't exist. It's not only a prophecy for a very specific death for Jesus of Nazareth, which is affirmed by history to have happened, that Jesus Christ was crucified by Pontius Pilate, considered one of the most certain facts in history by atheist scholars. Mm-hmm. But that you could prophesy crucifixion before crucifixion even existed for a specific person, and all the other prophecies, that in itself is a strong proof. But again, the basic point here is the universe is the proof of God. Mm-hmm. The Bible is the description. But let's go into the next meme. Based on what you're saying, it's going to get even worse.
We're going to be treading a lot of the same ground. Next meme.
Wandered in the desert 40 years, Moses. Then here's a Google Maps thing where it says it takes only 6 days to walk there. Okay, that's you cannot walk there in 6 days. You have, like, just in terms of logistics, you can't. And also,
it's a real touch grass moment. Touch sand. Be outside.
Funny. Yes, 1. 2, why was Moses in the desert for 40 years?
Why was Moses in the desert for 40 years?
Because there were people in the country that they were going to go in that they thought would kill them. The wandering in the desert, I think if it just came from, like, I don't know, did VeggieTales get this wrong? I like VeggieTales. I hope they did it. They did it, like, I think the word wandering, I think maybe the word wandering used to mean something different. And then they were wandering like they were a nomadic society.
Yes.
Not they were literally lost for 40 years. They were wandering in the desert because the place they wanted to go to was filled with people that they thought would kill them. And God said, you didn't trust me, therefore you will wander in the desert for 40 years and the next generation will take the land. This was not, oh no, I'm lost. And also, sorry, even if they were lost, brother, if you don't have a compass and you're in the Sinai Peninsula, which is full of desert, you tell me how you follow Google Maps. Even if this was literally being lost for 40 years, you tell me the good landmarks in the Sinai Desert. Like, this is, I haven't read, not even like I haven't read the Bible, we don't know this deep theology. It's like, let me like read a chapter about wandering for 40 years. Let me just like Google the chapter that, don't use Google Maps, use Google. Google the chapter that it is and read why they were there. And two, it's a desert.
Yeah.
This is wrong. This is bad on multiple levels.
What you will see, again, a common theme is going to be atheists thinking they're so much smarter than they are. Just, oh yeah. They could just use Google Maps. I know obviously that's not what the atheists are actually saying. But yeah, maybe you should put more than 30 seconds of thought into it. You know, maybe this is a recollection of an actual historical event that would have been a lot more nuanced than whatever you think it would be like to walk across the desert in the year 2026. Mm-hmm. So yeah,
and maybe
there are people there. There's logistics. There are in fact no landmarks. You do in fact, need to find water, supplies. You have a lot of people with you. It's just all things considered. It is such, just like the Spider-Man meme, this is not a good comparison. It is not a responsible comparison, and it's not a respectable comparison. I get what you're getting at. I understand how if you thought about it for 30 seconds, you'd be like, yeah, they should have been able to get it done in 6 days. But if you think about it for 31 seconds, you might just change your mind.
I was gonna say, even like what do you think? The finding of water. The finding of water is an important touch point in multiple points along the narrative of the Exodus.
Mm-hmm.
Like they don't have water, so Moses said, strike a stone with his staff, and all these different points. But yeah, maybe let's think the best of people. Maybe this was more lighthearted. This is less pointed. It might get more pointed as we.
I was gonna say, in fairness, of course, there's a desire to always snap back and be like, "Oh, that's a nice meme you made from your mother's basement." But in all actuality, sure, there's a fairness in the fact that none of us modern people, I mean, we barely hike. We don't have the lived experience in our own life to really have even the vaguest idea of how difficult it is to just walk around in the pure virgin nature that doesn't have the resources you need, that doesn't have demarcated trails, these sorts of things. So I'm trying to extend an olive branch here and say, okay, I think this is just genuine ignorance. We all could have made this mistake, I suppose. It is a funny joke, to be clear.
Yeah, it is a funny joke. I could see this. Yeah, I theoretically a Christian could make this meme as a joke, like an in joke.
Yeah.
I could see this as being made by a Christian as an in joke, and then an atheist took it and like, aha, I proved your religion wrong.
Yeah, as a joke, it's funny. If it means to be an even vaguely legitimate,
even the slightest
argument
against
argument, yeah, then
no,
it
then it's funny
apart.
how bad that is that you still tried it.
Funny joke. Next meme.
Oh, okay, scary. I'm a Christian, and you can be a Christian too. Come eat the flesh and drink the blood of my invisible friend. You can wear our symbol. It's a dead body nailed to a torture device. The day you die, you'll meet my invisible friend. Why are you running?
Funny.
This is funny. It's just one of those decontextualizations. And obviously, this is a particularly Catholic meme in regards, like, they are specifically crucifixes and talking about transubstantiation. But, I don't know.
Well, I mean, just for whatever it's worth, atheists can't be expected to know the nuances between Catholics and Protestants because they also don't know the nuances between fact and reality. So
funny. I was gonna say this is fine. It's like, oh, when you take things out of context, Christianity sounds a little bit spooky. Well, yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
I was gonna say when Jesus taught about in John 6, this is not about communion. This is about talking about eating his flesh and drinking his blood. A whole bunch of people left because they're like, that's creepy stuff, Jesus, and they left. And the Bible's like, they left. And Jesus is like, are you guys going to leave? And then Peter's like, you have words of eternal life. We're staying here. Which, one, very base. And two, like, people thought it was creepy in the time as well. Mm-hmm. So it's like, oh, I think that stuff is weird. Okay.
Yeah, for whatever it may be worth, just to hit a little below the belt. I love the part where it's like a dead body nailed to a torture device. It's like, oh, you couldn't find a better word for cross on thesaurus.com.
Funny.
You can definitely tell. This was a meme trend, just a normal meme trend, probably more years ago than I care to remember, where it would just be taking everyday things and then describing them more literally to the way where they sound strange and bizarre. Mm-hmm. Oh, you're going to put your wet clothes into a rotating metal tube full of heat? Like, yeah, it's a dryer, but when you describe things as they actually are. And it's comical. It was a great trend. This is like the insidious other side of that. Like, dead bodies on torture devices, which, by the way, he wasn't dead for the vast majority of being on the torture device, for whatever that may or may not be worth. It's kind of a thing that is mentioned, in the book that we read. But yeah, I think it's funny, and there is, of course, not an insincerity of it, but just this idea of as you can see from the scary meme face. It's so. It's almost like it comes from this alternate reality. Jeez Louise, sorry, I need to hydrate more. This meme, it almost seems like it comes from an alternate reality where the vast majority of the Western world hasn't been Christian for the vast majority of its history.
Mhm.
You can only defamiliarize something so much before it becomes comical, in the same way that you can describe a clothes dryer as it really is, and then that sounds funny because we're all so familiar with it. You can do the same thing with religion. There's a comedic value to it, but also it doesn't make you like a real smart guy if you're like, I want a thesaurus.com.
Yeah, the entire webcomic Strange Planet, which we're not going to endorse by or something, but the entire point of it is doing that. It's like, I crave star damage. I want to go out and have the radiation bake me. It's like it's getting a tan. But it sounds weird when you say it that way. It's the same thing here. Also, this is an actual question. Are crucifixes supposed to be Jesus after he died? I always thought it was supposed to be Jesus still alive on the
That
cross.
was my understanding as well. It's my understanding that...
This is a Protestant channel, not a Catholic channel.
I was going to say...
I don't actually know what the Catholic thought on that
Do correct me if I'm wrong, Catholics that I assume are watching this, because these videos get many views, especially from Catholics. But it's always been my understanding that one of the reasons that Catholics emphasize the crucifix so much is to emphasize the suffering.
Yeah.
Whereas the Protestants usually opt for an empty cross to emphasize the power of God, to return God from the dead. But yeah, so anyway, yeah, you're not really going to get that depiction of suffering if you're just showing a dead guy.
Yeah, like it's like wear a symbol, the dead body, nails, or torture device. Like, just even frame that in any different way. It's like, wear a symbol. It's about someone who suffered for your sake, that you may partake of him in a deeply intimate sense.
Yeah.
So that sounds a lot better, but they don't want it to sound better.
Yeah, very, very funny, very insincere. Next meme.
It was such an unnecessary accident, and now she's dead. Why? It makes no sense. It's also random. I know it's hard to see it now, but there's order and meaning to the world. God has a plan. Funny, is this an anti-Jewish meme?
I think it might be.
That guy appears to be wearing
It's an anti-Abrahamic meme, so I guess we're just... I mean, it is an atheist meme in its own way. Several of these are more just not against Christianity in specific.
Yeah.
You could really interpret the second one as an anti-Jewish meme if you felt like it. If you wanted to get this guy kicked off Twitter. But, yeah.
And the second half is, meanwhile, in God's secret lair, plan, kill everyone. So simple, so brilliant.
It doesn't follow its own logic.
No,
right?
It really doesn't. No.
By no extent of the imagination, that if you as an atheist are like, haha, look at those guys, they made up a religion where their God made everyone. And it's like, okay, cool. Do you think that simultaneously we're holding this idea that God brought everyone to life and then wants to kill everyone, but can't do it yet, but brought them to life for the sake of killing them? Again, I understand none of this is done in good faith, and, why would it be? Atheism inherently is not very good with anything regarding faith. But just this idea of, it doesn't follow its own logic. It's not even consistent within its own little world that it's made up. So it's very useless.
Yeah, much has been made of the problem of evil, but I really do like the idea of the problem of good. As in, like, why does anything good exist in your mindset? Like, there's multiple kinds of atheists. There's the kinds of atheists who are like, no, humanism, I can be a humanist and great and good and stuff. And there's like the nothing matters atheists. And the nothing matters atheists are much more accurate.
Yeah.
Because the atheist worldview is that the meaning of life is racistly killing other things until the strongest is still alive and they die anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Like, any kind of evolutionary worldview is that by definition. The evolutionary worldview is that forcibly impregnating as many as possible and killing all the ones who don't have your genes is the way that society works. Like, it was such an unnecessary accident. It's like, in the atheist worldview, sucker, she was weak. Like, I don't know. If you want to have, like, a very nihilistic, nothing matters mindset, then maybe you can try to get something in that. But the existence of good is contra to the atheist worldview. And, again, as you say, it's not even particularly consistent.
Yeah, listen, I hope that you won't think I'm intentionally choosing the low-hanging fruit. All the fruit it's already on the ground.
Funny.
There's not much to say as an atheist, which makes a lot of sense. You'll see it's the same arguments, it's the same points over and over again. They're not particularly funny, they're not particularly clever, but really, they have little else but the same several talking points. And yeah, you see that again and again in these memes specifically, but in real life as well. It's all so, I don't know, pretentious, pointless, just... Okay.
Well, even, I don't know, even the childishness of, and I'm sorry, this is a very dark, serious topic, but the childishness is like, there's no possible reason in any greater plan that someone might die.
Yeah.
Like, how unthinking is that? How unthinking is, like, someone died, therefore there's not a plan? How unthinking is that? How lack of scope of imagination or concept or even reasoning is there in that? That death cannot be a part of anything because I don't like it.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, if you are a nihilist, then sure, because something I think that we as cradle Christians and lots of people who have been raised not even as Christian but in a Christian society, I'm using that term to apply to America loosely, the West loosely, that regardless of your personal religious adherence, there are lots of holdovers of traditional Christianity that are just part of secular culture now. But if you are an atheist, if you really view the world nihilistically, then sure, there is no such thing as like honor, for example. Very many of us, Christian or otherwise, would die for honor. But if you believe that there is no God, if you believe that all of these things are fairy tales, then of course there's no honor. There's no reason why you should ever sacrifice anything for anyone. I mean, maybe you could say, oh, you could like sacrifice for your genetic offspring, but even that's a stretch. So there's this inherent selfishness to atheism, and there's this inherent idea that the only thing that matters to you is you. That your life is the only thing you are obliged to do in this life is to keep yourself alive as long as possible, which is completely consistent from this nihilist, atheist, scientific, naturalist worldview. But yeah, so I just to reiterate what you said, it makes sense that you wouldn't be able to conceive of a reason why someone's death would be necessary in any greater plan, because you don't believe in any sort of greater plan, and you also you don't believe that there is any good reason to die other than a simple failure to continue living.
Yeah, and just to make a final point, unless you want to take a very specific kind of supralapsarianism, and if you know what that word means, then you're a nerd. Congratulations. Then death is not God's original plan. Like, that's the other thing. I think there is something, and to be fair, this is in pop spirituality can be a thing as well. Death is not part of God's original plan, but we screwed up. Like, there is a point of agency, that a negative agency, insofar as, like, all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. We sin and deserve death. That there is something where it's like, oh, no one really deserves to die. That's contrary. Sorry, let me step back. Like, the atheist idea here is, like, God's current, like, initial ideal plan is death for everyone. God's initial plan is life for everyone, and then humanity decided that we wanted to make ourselves equal with God. Like, I think just in a sense, obviously this person, well, no, they're anti-Jewish, same origin, same Genesis. But I think this person is both thinking in the limited sense of, like, that death can never be a part of a plan, but also in the sense of, like, we can do bad things that have bad consequences. Like, it takes away any kind of deeper thought, it takes away any kind of personal moral agency. It's just, I do think it's kind of childish.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you have just said, and obviously I believe it as well. However, even more rudimentarily.
Funny. It's rudimentary, so rudimentarily, I guess.
Sure, that word.
Fun.
It's just the meme isn't consistent with even the logic of someone who doesn't understand Christianity.
Yeah, or Judaism, I guess.
Or Judaism. One of them. Next meme.
I really don't understand why people are so obsessed with religion. Just be a good person. You don't need a book to tell you that. Define good. Define person. I'm sorry. Wait, no. Let's go straight to the abortion superhighway. You can't even define person, let alone good.
Yeah. To be fair, there's a real chance that whoever made this meme was like 11. I know that sounds like I'm being mean, and that's because I am. But yeah, just this idea of, just be a good person. Girl, what?
Define
right?
good.
There's this idea of like, you guys made religion up. Just be a good person. Girl, you made that up. What do you mean good person?
Yeah.
Yeah,
no,
by
absolutely.
what standard? By what objective? Again, sorry, fruit's hanging so low it's on the ground. It's practically covered in dirt. But yeah, it's just, again, such a useless, like, it sounds good for maybe 10 seconds, but if you think about it for that 11th second, it immediately falls apart. Yeah. And so many people think that's a good comeback. Like, yeah, just be a good person. Yeah, it's astonishing to me how many people are just content to just stop in the middle of the road. You're like, be a good person. I'm done. I'm not going to think about this anymore. I will never define a single word I'm using. And that's more of just a general take for philosophy in general. Yeah. How people are so accepting of things, parentheses, derogatory. I realize that probably sounds ironic if you are an atheist who has watched this video thus far. Honestly, thank you. Sorry, we're going to continue to take shots at some very silly advocates of your worldview here. But just this idea that you can just choose an artificial stopping point. Yeah.
And most people say just be a good person would be fine with killing small people who are inconvenient to you. And if you're like, no, well, a fetus isn't really a person. Brother, society told you that. You go back in 1600 and you're like, no, a Turk isn't a person. I'm sorry. Like, your good person is, one, your idea of even, like, atheists don't realize how much they're standing on the shoulders of Christianity.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Like, the idea that you have a vaguely similar... This is how it goes, right? You have a vague sense of morality that is influenced by the fact that you grew up in a culture that has been Christian for over 1,000 years. Like I don't know where exactly you're coming from, but like, yeah, you're growing up in a Christian culture. It's spread most of the world, whatever. Maybe you're an immigrant, but you're now living in a Christian culture now. I'm assuming you're in America. Maybe you're not in America. You're probably in a Christianized part of the world.
All 30 of you who are going to watch this video.
All 30 of you are going to watch this video, yes. But you grew up in a Christianized society, and therefore you have a vaguely Christian sense of right and wrong. And you're like, why doesn't everyone see that blank is wrong? Because they aren't, or why doesn't everyone see that blank is wrong? The only reason you think blank is wrong is because of that Christianized worldview. Like leaving infant children who are malformed out to die. You're like, that's obviously wrong. Why is it obviously wrong? People thought it was okay for a long time. Christianity changed that.
Yeah.
You are holding, you're like, why? I wish I could put this in better words. Why are people so obsessed with religion when we know what it is like to be a good person? You only know what it is like to be a good person, even in the sense that you have from religion. That's why people are so obsessed with religion, because that is what has taught us how to be good. And you are benefiting from that teaching and then pretending that it never happened. Because you thought of it all yourself, which you never did. Next meme. Your imaginary friend is not real. Sunday.
It goes without saying. I saw, I don't know, probably 40 different iterations of this exact same concept. This is just one of the first ones I picked. But yes, so very many of them is a parent chastising their child for imaginary friends and then praying or talking about God. Like, all right, we get it. Thoughts?
I mean, I will perpetually go back to the idea that the founding point of atheism is that in the beginning there was nothing, and that nothing was nowhere, and that nothing was a nowhere in no time, and that nothing and nowhere at no time, for no reason, with no cause, suddenly made everything, and then everything exploded, and that's why existence exists. Right? Well, what a rational and reasonable thing. It's like, oh, you have an imaginary friend. Brother, the world was created. We have a creator. And I think this is even on like a purely logical ground. It's like, because a thing cannot exist, therefore anything I say doesn't exist. Like, because I have an imaginary friend named Tim. It's like, well, Tim isn't real. Therefore, God isn't real? Okay, if I say that I'm the president of the world and that's false, is it false if I say that I am whatever job I am, that I'm a mailman? I'm not actually a mailman. But, like, because I can make something up, therefore nothing is true, is a really silly mindset. It's like, because I can identify myself falsely, therefore I can't identify myself correctly. That makes sense.
Yeah, just to hopefully more succinctly reiterate what you've just said. Just because one imaginary friend, sorry, I shouldn't be using that terminology. But yes, just because one thing is false does not mean all things are false. Obviously, that would crumble. The logic of it crumbles almost immediately. But moreover to that point, to the I'm trying to be as kind as possible to atheists. Is there are two ways to look at the same coin here. If you look back at what an atheist would call like evolutionary psychology. There is something within humanity that tends to personify things, that tends, we have pareidolia, there does seem to be something that a secular person would say is humanity's perennial desire to invent God or to invent some sort of higher order being or power, but a Christian would look at that same evidence, the idea that there does seem to be something innate in humanity that is looking for or receptive to the possibility of the invisible and divine. We would say that's like, yeah, obviously we were intended to do that by the invisible and divine. So I guess what I'm trying to get at here is atheists often applaud themselves being like, oh, we're so very scientific. We have finally proven that religion is just a fan theory that is made because of all of those wonky little chemicals in the brain. But for whatever it may or may not be worth, you can understand how that same information can be brought to a different conclusion by parties who can see that same information but derive a different origin from it. So hopefully that makes sense, but essentially what I'm getting at is, you hear atheists say, oh, people want to think that God is real because they feel like there should be a God that's real. And I realize this sounds very elementary and a bit silly, but I believe you ought to at least consider the possibility that maybe the reason that people want a God that is real is because there is a God that is real and there is a connection between that God that is real and the people that desire him.
Yeah, if you believe that human processes are brought about for a reason, then the seeming constant human desire to need God may be brought about for a reason. That is that God is real. I think that the flip of this meme would be something like if a kid went and threw a bunch of paint on a wall or tomato sauce or whatever, and the parents said oh, that didn't come from nowhere, and then it's on Atheist Sunday, it's the universe came from nowhere. I think that's a nice little funny.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. Absolutely.
Next meme. Pray. Did it work? No. God works in mysterious ways. Did it work? Yes. Praise the Lord.
God.
No, I funny. I like the idea. The fact that yes is here is a kind of a funny thing. 'Cause I think that
It's
they
funny.
would just say that it's always no. But I'm actually curious your thoughts on this one.
Um, yeah, it is of course funny that this meme does seem to be acknowledging the idea that prayer could work. It's kind of useless just insofar as, like, yeah, man, the Lord does work in mysterious ways. This is it's very difficult because sometimes as a Christian, the only thing you can say is exactly what atheists will accuse you of saying, but the reason you're saying it is because, like, yeah, obviously. So what I'm getting at here is I usually tell my kids, my students, my my students that I teach, that old chestnut of God answers every prayer even when the answer is no. So just this idea of, I'm not sure if atheists think that Christians think that prayer is like a magic spell where you can get whatever you want. Honestly, there are some Christians who kind of think that. That's not actually the doctrine that we have traditionally held, and it's certainly not what our holy book says. But just this idea of, yeah, you don't always get what you want, even when you pray for it.
I was gonna say, I think the obvious connection here. Again, this is kind of childishness. Imagine a child makes a thing that says, "Ask your parents for something. Did it work? Yes. Praise parents. Did it work? No. Parents work in mysterious ways." But if you actually trust your parents, that's absolutely true,
Mhm.
right? Like a kid like if you have a kid who actually trusts it, like kid ask parents for ice cream. Did it work? No. Well, I guess parents work in mysterious ways. Yeah, because you shouldn't be having ice cream at 11 o'clock at night or something like that.
Yeah.
Like that's an entirely valid thing. If you are working from the framework that there is a God who is wiser than you, then if I pray for something and I don't get it, it is entirely valid to say he knows better. In the same way that a kid, obviously kids aren't really developed enough to say this, but if you had a kid who is mature enough to be like a 6-year-old and ask their parents something and the parents say no, they're mature enough to say, well, dad probably knows better and he probably has a reason for it. It is an immensely self-centered thing where it's like, if I don't get what I want, there's no good reason that I wouldn't get what I want.
Yeah. And also, for whatever it may be worth, there is something inherently, perennially very funny about the way in which atheists are like, Christians, they're like children, they're like sheep. And we're like, yeah, man.
Funny.
Just this idea of the metaphor of whether you want to say shepherd and sheep or more relevantly parent and child. There's a lot of applicability to the relationship between God and man, insofar as he's just described, this idea where just as a child, a child will hopefully understand that their parents have a knowledge that they don't. We as Christians understand that our God has a knowledge that we don't. So because I don't get my ice cream at 11 o'clock at night doesn't mean that God's not real, or that God doesn't care about me, or that God's dumber than I am.
Yeah.
In fact, it would stand to reason that the reason I'm not getting what I want is probably because that one who is wiser than I, has a reason to do so.
Yeah. And both wisdom and behavior, like in the same sense of like, what if I asked my daddy for a toy train set, but I the previous day had like stolen all the cookies and broken the plates? Then if I don't get the toy train set, it's not even a matter of wisdom; it's a matter of like you're not acting in a way to receive that.
Yeah, well said.
Yes, and that especially goes to the whole like, oh, I can name it and claim it. There's the idea that there is no reason that a prayer should ever not even not be answered, but like not that the idea that you should never receive what you ask for.
Mm-hmm.
That there's no reason that you should ever not get what you want is both childish and incredibly selfish. It both makes you think that you're the smartest person in the world and that you deserve everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe some of you think they are the smartest person in the world and they deserve everything. But I don't think that's a really wise mindset. Next meme. Atheists shouldn't share our Christian holiday. Just work instead. And you shouldn't share our medical research. Just pray instead. Okay, look. Just a test. Look up like the nearest hospitals in your area and see how many of them are named like Saint Mary or Saint Francis or Saint something or other. And that's just the Catholic one. Like our medical research, your medical research. How many of the advancements in society are made by Christians, built on Christian? Like how much of the scientific revolution came about from Christian? Like not only just like the general Christian worldview that said that we can understand the world that God created, but like individual Christians doing actively good work, and then atheists operating from that mindset. Because okay, let me say it. Like, most atheist scientists are actively co-opting Christianity in a certain sense. Because if you are a just dead-on atheist, then there is no reason to think that a scientific experiment is any more valid than a dowsing rod. Because you only believe that just random atoms in random ways are finding electricity in random results in order to get whatever you're looking at. Like scientific replicability and the idea that the universe has an ordered set of laws is a Christian concept in the sense that you believe that you have the agency to discern in some way. In atheism, you're a flesh robot. You think the way you do because a bunch of hydrogen atoms eventually up until they're the flesh that makes up your brain and various electrical symbols. There's no idea of a scientific method in atheism. Atheists will just kind of close their eyes and ignore that and say, what if I just steal that from Christianity and then ignore everything else? All scientific advancement is based on the idea that you can rationally grasp some point of an ordered universe, and that is an inherently theistic concept.
Sure. In the interest of fairness, for whatever it's worth, and we already touched on this, there is, well, to use a commonly cited metaphor, an atheist in the world is almost like a fish in water, insofar as atheists often don't understand how much of society is fundamentally Christian or fundamentally based off of Christian fundamentals. Insofar as he has just said, this idea that the world is ordered and that it can be explored, these sorts of ideas of Christians in terms of science, but also, as we just said, in terms of morality. And to the credit of the atheists, you don't know what you don't know. And also, just to be clear, these are random memes made by who knows, right? I know I accused one of them of being made by a 12-year-old. It very well may have been. It's difficult. I'm trying to, like I said, extend that olive branch, but they're not sending their best. These are, well, I'd like to think these aren't the best arguments for atheism. As a matter of fact, they probably are. Funny. But I guess what I'm getting at here is I'm sure we could go and find 11 profoundly stupid Christian memes. And perhaps one day we will. But just the idea that so many of these arguments, they fall apart after 10 seconds. There probably is an atheist argument out there that can survive a whole 11 seconds. Perhaps I've yet to see it. But, sorry, this is my attempt to try and throw a bone here. That these are so profoundly stupid that it's difficult to imagine that they were made by adults who have any genuine interest in the science and philosophy of theist versus atheist. A lot of them feel like just dunk. A lot of them you get the sense of that the guy hit send and then sat back and like got himself a beer and said, no religion is over. And I think all of us have this arrogance to an extent. If I can be incredibly cringe and old for a moment here, I call it the Chad Wojak effect, where there is something incredibly desirable about being the guy who just says no and then walks away. I'm not gonna elaborate. That's a lot of words. Too bad I'm not reading them. So satisfying. Something so just so tantalizing and exciting about that. And I think you see that a lot in these atheist memes. Again, to their credit, a meme is inherently a very short argument. Obviously we're not reading essays here. We're reading like 2 or 3 sentences. But there is just a sense of like, I don't know why anyone ever would be religious at all. I have absolutely no interest in even pretending to take any sort of fascination in the reality of the overwhelming majority of humans who have ever existed being religious persons. We are so used to atheism that we forget how historically nearly unprecedented genuine atheism actually is. And I would go so far as to make the argument that even now, here in current year, genuine atheism is much less common than even these so-called genuine atheists think. I think a lot of atheists are more agnostic than they would ever care to admit or ever even realize among themselves. But it's chronological snobbery. It's such historical arrogance. It's just, I did it. Me and my one meme. Yeah, religion is over now. You can all go home. Like, all right, cool. Thanks, man. Thanks. Yeah. You walk into a conversation that's been going on for thousands of years, and you just kind of toss your little meme on the table, and you're like, you can thank me later.
Yeah. Next meme. Once upon a time, no one knew what happened, so they made up some profanity. What are you guys doing? Okay, so we are speaking from the point of that we think we had an eyewitness account to creation because we have the Word of God. And you can say, no, that's not really the Word of God. That was so made up. That was all made up. You guys are making yourself up without even any basis. Again, once upon a time there was nothing, and then nothing and nowhere for no reason at no time suddenly created everything, and then everything exploded. Like, I'm sorry, in the vein of making things up at the most basic level. Let's not even get to like the specifics of Genesis. At the most basic level, a created world has a creator. Is a basic, entirely rational statement. And what if it all just started existing? Because is an inherently silly one. Sorry, I don't think that this makes a case for anything, if you want to go after, Origins is atheism's weakest point by far.
Yeah.
Origins is by far the weakest point of atheism. If I was an atheist, I would never try to bring that. I would make the last meme. Like, I'd feel like, medical, we have a doctor, to the doctor, Stephen Hawking, he's an atheist, maybe he's an atheist, I don't even know. Like, oh, atheists are smarter because something. I mean, at least try to do something like that. Origins are the point at which every atheist turns into a 3-year-old desperately like, there was nothing nowhere, and it just exploded. Sorry. Stay away from Origins, atheist. It's by far your weakest point.
I was going to say, to the credit of the atheists, I think that there is something almost similar, because Christians say that the origin of everything is God, and then I say, oh yeah, well, who made God? And we're like, no, that's not how it works. This is infinity. And they're like, oh yeah? That doesn't make sense. To which the rebuttal of that is like, hey, where does space end? It doesn't, does it? You have to logically admit that there is such thing as infinity, and that can apply to a person as well as to a thing. But yeah, I understand that both of us are in this boat where we're like, yeah, it's incomprehensible, the origin of the universe. Christians, we have an answer without an understanding. What I mean by that is you can know something knowledgeable, you can know something factually without being able to comprehend it mentally. And I will again go to the example I just gave of space being an infinite thing. We all know this factually. Space goes on for infinity. And even if you were to say that space, the way we conceive it, is somehow contained in something, then that something that contains it must go on for infinity. And if it hurts your brain, it's supposed to. We're finite creatures, right? But no one is arguing against this. So we can say, even as a secular proof here, that we acknowledge there is such thing as infinity. And we also acknowledge that our brains are literally incapable of comprehending infinity. And then Christians to take that a step further and say, yeah, there is things that are inherently incomprehensible by the physical capacity that we have in our actual little meatballs up here. But yeah, it's so funny. I don't know, man. It's difficult to articulate, obviously, and I hope you'll forgive my slowness of speech here. But just this idea of your origin story for God is ridiculous. Mine, though, my origin story for matter is not ridiculous. You're saying God was always there? That's crazy. You know what was always there? All the matter in the physical universe condensed into a tiny little marble that exploded.
Yeah, or even what was always there? Whatever the heck made that matter pop into existence for no reason.
Yeah.
The Christian mindset is the simple admission that there is a creator who is infinite and greater than us and who we cannot fully comprehend, but we can describe in some way. The atheist mindset is, what if things happened and I don't know why, and I don't even have a reason for why. The basic concept of God is inherently rational. A being greater than us created. Do we know the fullness of God? No. But that basic concept is inherently rational. The basic concept of, what if it just started existing? And what if it just started existing?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Jeez Louise.
Next meme. How I sleep knowing that I'm going to hell in every religion. I think this is a cope. I think this is made by someone who is some level of agnostic, like wanting to be atheist, and is actually scared and doesn't know, but is coping for it by acting tough on the internet. I'm sorry. Maybe someone sleeps like that. In that case, I don't think that's an inherently rational mindset, insofar as, like, the level of arrogance, like, I am completely 10,000% sure that every religion is wrong. Like, maybe you're just the cockiest guy in the world, but you're just the cockiest guy. No, that level of arrogance. I think that the person who made this meme probably is suffering from an internal fear that they are trying to deny by acting tough about it.
I would generally agree. As I said at the beginning of this video, we started this because we have just filmed a video of 10 Catholic memes, and what we said in that, please go watch it, is that something that is true, is that we, as Protestants, if we didn't care about Catholics, we wouldn't talk about them.
Yeah.
And I think that general sentiment can be applied to a lot of things. That if Mr. Sleeping Snuggly Duckling over here genuinely didn't care about religions or their ideas of afterlife, he probably wouldn't have made this meme. And I know a meme is a low-effort thing to do, but still, the idea of... you could say it's a horseshoe and they touch at both ends, but I think that when you see these atheists like, I don't care about religion at all, I never cared about religion. Why would you think I'd care about religion with your stupid religion over there? What did you guys say? It's wrong. Obviously you have a vested interest in what we are saying, because you certainly seem to have some desire to know, because there is very likely something within yourself that is not as competent as you may wish to see.
Yeah, I think of the quote-unquote genuine atheists who are out there, they are probably just going about their daily life literally not caring. I think the level of engagement, I don't think, look, maybe you think that you're altruistic. I think there's very little in the way of atheists who are like, no, I want to convert you to atheism for your own good.
Yes.
I don't think they really think that anymore. I think that there used to be a kind of like the new atheist society that like, if everyone in society stops believing in God, it'll be better. And guess what? We tried that, and now we don't know what a man and a woman are. Like, you really said if you stop believing in God, we'll all be completely rational. And then you started giving away male and female, like the basic thing that everyone agrees with. So when we as a Christian, we're talking about atheists, like, oh, you keep talking about atheists, right? Because I don't want you to go to hell. I don't. I'm sorry about that. And you're talking about religion, not to save us from anything. I think it's because I think most people, atheists who are talking about religion, either A, just want to be like, oh, I'm better and confident, I want to like smash them down, or they're just really uncertain in themselves and they're trying to puff themselves up and act like that. Again, maybe you think you're an altruistic atheist and you think that our lives would be so much better if we just stopped believing in God. I don't think that's really a broad thing. I think most atheists engage either out of a desire to fight or a desire to cover up for their own insecurities. We engage with atheists because we care about you. I hope you say that you care about us, but I don't see that as the atheistic mindset. I'm sorry, I don't.
Yeah, there is it is not a one-to-one comparison, the idea of Christians trying to convert atheists and atheists trying to convert Christians. Because at the very least, I hope you can acknowledge that we as Christians, because we believe in an afterlife and we believe in a hell and we believe that you're going to it, we do have an interest in trying to keep you out of it. Whereas it's not the same thing for an atheist, because if you're an atheist and if you think we're wrong and you're right, it doesn't really matter.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're all gonna die and no one's gonna know the difference, right? If atheists are correct, they're never gonna know. Because when you die, it's over. If life is completely purely physical, then when it ends, it ends. But you could maybe try to make an argument. I know atheists have tried to be like, no, society as a whole would be better without religious people or Christians. I don't think that is a very respectable argument based off what we just touched on. The idea of Christian advancements in science and medicine, and Christians statistically still give more to charity than anyone else. You know, Christian morality that says you shouldn't leave your child to die of exposure in the woods. Christian morality that says you should. Sorry, what are the YouTube censor words?
I don't even know. There's
the morality
many
that
bad
says,
things that you can think about.
Yes, the morality that says because you are the biggest and the strongest doesn't mean that you have the. It doesn't mean
right
that
to
you
force yourself to
yeah
do anything.
Yes, and I mean that in the most depraved possible way.
Yeah.
That idea. Yeah, it's certainly not natural. It doesn't emerge from the state of nature. It emerges from the divine. And a lot of atheists, I think, don't realize that because, again, to your credit, why would you think deeply about something you've taken for granted your entire life? So it is very difficult to make an argument that society really would be better without any religion whatsoever. I know that atheists like to say that, like, oh, if we had no religion, we'd all hold hands and religious people do nothing but kill each other. I think that's a very ignorant view of history in general. All this to say, to my actual point, is that atheists who very much want to dismantle or destroy the faith of the religious, it's not. It's very hard to argue that it's done altruistically. I think what it really is just to be like, no, see, you're wrong, I'm right. Yes, I'm right, and then you go home and look in the mirror and like, yeah, I am right. What I'm getting at here is that the reason it seems that atheists desire to deconvert the religious is not for the sake of the religious. It's not to tear that comfort away from the religious. And it probably isn't for the sake of wider society. It's probably mostly for the sake of saying, okay, I must be right because I got someone else to tell me that I'm right.
Yeah. If you're an atheist, why do you care if I believe in God?
Mm-hmm.
Unless you think it's to my own negative detriment. And even on that basis alone, like just that, religious people in generally report greater level of comfort, lower level of stress, greater sense of well-being.
Less likely to.
Yeah. It's funny. You can do that. If you're truly atheistic, then you don't really care if I believe in God unless it just annoys you personally, in which case that's certainly not altruism. And then speaking to your point, the only reason you would consider it to be immoral that a person not do anything they desire to do to a child who is smaller and weaker than them and that they want to do something to them is because of co-opted Christian morality. He's like, no, I made up a moral system by myself that says that. It's like, no objective morality. It's like, well, what if I just said it was wrong? It's like, cool, I guess you can be dictator of the world if you want to personally, but you have no standing for that.
Yeah. And also, if I can just anticipate a rebuttal that I'm sure you have heard before, this idea of how does me being Christian affect you if I'm wrong about Christianity? I can just anticipate that someone's going to be like, oh, well, you say that people like, XYZ alphabet soup shouldn't exist, as a more famous example. But once again, I would want to point you back to what we just said, this idea of Christianity bringing this idea that you should not take advantage of those who are weaker. So you hear this very heavily, usually left-leaning mindset of that religion is bad because it oppresses certain people. And I want to say to you that if we have no religion, that's not going to end oppression. You know, if you, with your 17 mental illnesses and your like safety blanket and your pronouns in bio, if you as that individual are like, let's get rid of religion, let's get rid of the morality that protects people who are less physically or socially able to fend for themselves, that's not going to end well for those people. It's not going to end well for the vulnerable. If you think that religion is oppressing the vulnerable, removing religion isn't going to make society be like, we should start treating the vulnerable easily. Like, we're going to take more advantage of the vulnerable. I realize, I'm sorry that I'm mincing my words. Like I said, we just recorded a whole other video before this, and obviously I've been talking a lot. And there is, of course, a difficulty in trying to explain something that is very simple, that I think we can hopefully all relate to, where when something is so fundamental, you almost don't know how to explain it.
Yeah.
So that is, I think, the struggle that I certainly have been having in you as well. But yeah, just this idea of society without religion, it's not going to be all of us holding hands and singing Kumbaya. It's just so profoundly ignorant of all of recorded history to make the assertion that if we simply removed religion, we would be treating each other more fairly and better, and that we'd all live in this like lovely utopian society where we all share. It's such I love your optimism. I really do. But
yeah, the weak have no inherent moral value unless they're made in the image of God.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah. Next meme.
The
look you give other atheists during the dinner prayer.
I think that was that's our final meme. I think it's a very good summation to a lot of what we've talked about. Just yes, you and I are the two smartest people in the entire world. Like, okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's it. It's like, I'm part of the club of people. Okay, actually, I was gonna say I think this is I'm part of the doesn't go along with society club.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is kind of funny. I think some atheists, if they lived in a truly atheistic culture, would actually be religious. Because I think a whole lot of atheism is like, I don't want to be like everyone else. It's like everyone else is praying, but I'm being cool. I think there's probably like an atheist to like trad caste pipeline if you were in that society where it's like me when I'm praying while everyone else is not praying.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think a whole lot of atheism. There's plenty of memes about what the average atheist looks like. I'm sure there's memes about what the average Christian looks like, but plenty of it is like, hey, look at me, I'm smarter than you.
Yeah.
You lady.
I mean, this whole like Reddit atheist thing. Listen, it devolved into a meme really quickly, but it started off something resembling sincerely. You know, there really were people saying, on my 10th birthday, my grandmother gave me a Bible. On my 20th birthday, I gave it back to her cut in half. You know, I'm sorry to say, these stereotypes don't come from nowhere. And to your credit, the stereotypes about Christians being obnoxious or stupid or very, very loud, they also don't come from nowhere. I do hope that we have been at least somewhat resembling something adjacent to relatively fair in our commentary. Obviously, the commentary was a little messy because it's candid, because it's late at night and we're tired, but also, as I've said, it is difficult to explain something that seems like it should not require an explanation. Yes.
So, and if you think that we haven't been fair, by all means, feel free to give us your biggest, either your best atheist memes that are much smarter than these atheist memes, that where you're like, oh, me with a better atheist meme, or like memes if you have memes that a Christian has sent you that you think are really dumb, you can send them to us, and we can review those too. If you think we're not being fair, then by all means, go ahead and tell us. I mean, you can leave a dislike. You can leave a dislike if you want, but if you want to. If you want to prove how smart you are, or actually make your case, if you're that mysterious altruistic atheist and you actually think like I want these people to stop believing God for good reasons, then leave a comment, tell us about it.
Yeah,
or
if
you don't want to give us engagement, we have an email address in the commentaries. Like I'm not going to give them a comment on their YouTube video.
Yeah.
But by all means, send us the memes you think are better if you want to send us memes you think are better.
I was gonna say, and send us your bad Christian memes as well, because I'm sure they exist. Like I said, we just did bad Christian memes insofar as Catholic memes specifically. A meme is, of course, a meme is not a dissertation. So yeah, everything sounds a lot worse when you get it into sound bites. But genuinely, like I said, just we've tried to be something resembling relatively fair. It's difficult to do when these things are so innate and so important. And as I've said, just to reiterate one more time, there will always be a fundamental difference between the way that the religious desire to convert an atheist versus the other way around. Because just to bring the mood down entirely, I think you're going to hell. And I don't want you to.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you want to free us from our own prison of thinking that our fellow man is condemned, go ahead and send us your better atheist memes, or what have you. But for whatever it may or may not be worth.
Yeah, and I mean, and if it means anything, well, I'll end it with a gospel pitch, and if you're tired of it and you want to tune out of it, I mean, you can, if it's to your own destruction. If at any point you have stopped to think and wondered, like, okay, maybe the existence of existence imply that someone made existence, and maybe the fact that I have a conscience imply that there is an objective moral standard. Understand that someone did make the universe, and that there is a moral standard, and that you absolutely have failed to live up to it. And the only possible way to be reconciled to him who made the universe is that someone made a perfect sacrifice for all of your failings. That someone is Jesus Christ, and believing in his name is the only way to be saved. We have plenty of other videos on that. Other people have other videos on that. Don't even watch a video. Get a Bible. Go to any bookstore. You can get a Bible. Read it. Read the Gospel of John. Read Paul's Epistle of Romans. But all those who call upon the name of the Lord will be saved. Look up Romans 10:9. If you don't want to buy a Bible, it's in the description of our channel. Sincerely, we don't want anyone to perish, and neither does God. He is not willing that any should perish. But we, in our disobedience, continue to turn away from him. And the more that we see him and choose to turn away, the greater the condemnation. So, to end on a down note, but hopefully a hopeful note, there is always a way open. As long as there is life, there is hope, but you don't know when your life is going to end. So turn while you have the chance.
If you did watch all the way to the end of this video, thank you. That's incredible, and it shows a sense of respect that, like it or not, if you watched all the way to the end of this, then perhaps you thought we might have had something valid to say. And if you think we might have something valid to say, you might not be as much as an atheist as you think you are.
And if you're a Christian who watched the end of this video because you're like, oh, let's dunk on atheists, well, then thank you for doing that also.
One way or another, if you've made it this far, thank you very much for tuning in. Please do the YouTube things if you feel so inclined. And if you don't feel inclined, like you said, if you don't want to give us the engagement, we have an email address in the channel description, and you can write us to be mad, or you can write us to ask questions, whatever it is, because I realize this might sound faint coming from one stranger to another, but we do care about you. That being said,
I got nothing else.
Got nothing else. Thank you very much.
Yep, let us know what you think. Like it, dislike it, whatever you like to do, and we'll see you next time with whatever meme review or other thing we do next at some point, and feel free to give us suggestions so you can find out what that is. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
God bless.